Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast, and what a game for the Seattle Seahawks in Atlanta. It started off a bit slow. It was tied 6-6 at the half. Just a little bit sluggish offensively. The defense looked fine. They looked great. Nick Emmanwori swarming all over the place. Devin Witherspoon playing a great game. Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence, all the culprits playing well for that defense. But offensively, just a little bit of a struggle. Atlanta has done well against the pass this season despite their record. And they did a good job against the Seattle Seahawks, against Jackson Smith and Jigba, against Sam Darnold. They brought pressure on Sam Darnold. He struggled a little bit with his accuracy in the first half. But the start of the second half and overall the second half was an entirely different story, Mitchell. It started with Rashid Shaheed making his biggest play as a Seattle Seahawk, the first 100-yard play of the season, 100-yard return, kickoff return. Coming into the game, the Atlanta Falcons were the worst kickoff return and kickoff unit and kickoff coverage unit in the National Football League, and the Seahawks exploited that. That's just something that another component of what makes this Seattle Seahawks team so complete is that every phase is a strength. Every phase. And I know we can talk about how the offense has struggled the last few weeks and Sam has struggled, no question about it. But for a team to go on the road and continue to play like the Seattle Seahawks have, and I mean, they're road warriors. I think they've only lost one road game this season. And it's something insane, like 15 or 16-1 over their last 17 games. They just have a way of going on the road, walking in your trap, and taking over your trap. Mitchell, you hear it every time in the locker room when they play the song. They walk in your trap and take over your trap, and that's what they did in Atlanta. They walked in their trap, took over their trap. The defense started to dominate. Right after that Shaheed touchdown, the defense forces a fumble, recovers it. The offense wakes up. They all of a sudden wake up, find Jackson Smith and Jigba. He gets his most productive drive of the game, and it ended with a Jackson Smith and Jigba 28-yard touchdown. That's when things started to really, really snowball for the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. They could not stop them. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions in his game, one to Nick Emmanwori, who was probably, honestly, the player of the game. I would likely be up for player of the week this week. He had an interception, a sack, a blocked field goal. The guy was everywhere. He was milking the cow, Mitchell mowing the lawn, fixing the roof, Mitchell fixing the plumbing. He was everywhere you needed him to be. You talk about do-it-all Swiss Army knife, and that's a guy Mike McDonald was really, really excited about before the season even started. And before, he got injured, a little banged up before the season started, or during the first game of the season, so he missed a few weeks. And all Mike McDonald was saying was like, wait until this kid gets into the fold. Wait until he comes back. Then this defense will be unleashed. And this is the first time the entire season, the entire starting unit of the defense has been healthy. They got Jaron Reed back. They got Julian Love back. And that was huge. To get a Pro Bowl safety back this point in the season, obviously they've been playing like one of the best defenses in the National Football League before they got him back. But this was a great game for them. Sam Darnold recovers from a slow start, goes 20 of 30 for 249, 3 touchdowns, and an interception off a tip pass to Arroyo. It was a good game. It was a good game. Again, the concerns about the running game continue. It seemed like Atlanta had them figured out a lot of that first half and kind of had a good feel for what they were doing on the ground game and through the air. So hopefully Clint and those guys can get it figured out and start moving forward and start to get that run game consistently going. But overall, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you have to be excited and proud with the product that was put on the field this week on the road in Atlanta. It was fantastic. This team looked really good. And again, that's why they're number 2 in my power ranking.
They looked the part today, at least in the second half, Richard. That first half, they looked like they were on autopilot. I know the Seahawks have had some trouble in Atlanta in the past. And, Richard, it's 6-6. It could have been 10-6. Darnell Mooney looks like he caught a touchdown, stepped out of bounds, did not reestablish himself. So that was a huge turning point going into halftime. And then obviously you see the benefit of having a guy like Rashid Shaheed on the roster. 100-yard kickoff return to start that half, and ultimately it swung the game. But I, too, am looking at these running stats, and I watched the game, and it just seems like it's week after week, and every once in a while they'll have a good running game. But, Richard, is this a personnel issue? Is this a scheme issue? What's going on? Why have we not seen a consistent runner establish himself in the backfield? Because it looks like they got some two good ones, and K9 and Zach Charbonnet. What's the issue there, Rich?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I think both of the running backs can get the job done, but every play, it's one guy. To get a run game being successful, to get a consistent run game, everybody has to do their job. Everybody has to stay on their blocks and execute. And it seems like every single week there's one guy that gets beat, one guy who falls off his block, one guy who can't sustain long enough for the play to develop the way it has. And some of it is Kenneth Walker just bouncing everything outside. And not every play is designed for it to get to the edge, and it seems like that's the reason that they're running Charbonnet on different runs, inside and mid zones, because it doesn't seem like K9 right now, at least at this point in the season, is going to be patient and wait for those holes to develop. And sometimes that's what you got to do with the zone scheme, is wait for guys to commit, then find the gap. And sometimes it seems like K9's getting there, reading it quick, and then bouncing it to the outside and trusting his speed. And this is the National Football League, and he's made some huge plays and has incredible speed. But there are fast guys out there. You're not going to consistently have success that way, and not every play is designed for you to have success that way, sure. And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations for him, and I'm sure offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, is you got to trust the scheme. You got to trust where the ball's supposed to hit. And if you don't do that, it's not ever gonna click for everybody. And maybe they need to switch it up. Just like the San Francisco 49ers, they went to a gap scheme eventually in a couple games just to switch the mojo up, just to switch it up, to switch the tendencies some. And sometimes you have to do that, is to change the. And it's hard. It's hard. Let's not think that is easy. A team has been running a scheme for the entire season. You installed that in training camp, but when you see things aren't working the way you want them to, you got to adjust.
No question about it. Richard, this team looks special. I mean, frankly, I always knew they were good, but they're starting to trend towards that, hey, they might be pretty damn good. I'm starting to think that, Richard, they got their eyes on the number one seed in the NFC. I think it's within reach, 100%. They got some big games coming up against the Colts, who may or may not be without their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, and then the Rams. I mean, what in your eyes makes this team so special?
It's the completeness of this team. It's every phase being a strength. And Sam Darnold just became just had the most wins for a quarterback that has changed teams over 2 seasons. So he had the most wins of a quarterback, and that's every quarterback that's ever switched teams. That's the Tom Brady's included, the Peyton Mannings. Who would have thought Sam Darnold would switch teams and have the most wins over that period? Who would have known? But that's a huge stat. And I think the chemistry he has with Jackson Smith and Jigba, the development, continued development of this offense. And I wish they would give guys like Cody White more opportunities, if I'm being honest. But A.J. Barner getting more opportunities. Arroyo trying to get more opportunities. And then Shaheed finding his space, and especially in an intermediate game. He caught a few digs and overs today. It's great to see that. That's going to continue to open this offense up and continue to open this offense up down the field and give him more opportunities. The more you can sprinkle it in and keep the defense guessing, the better off they will be. But the biggest strength of this team is the defense and how consistent they are, how deep they are at the defensive line, how deep they are in the secondary. Ernest Jones comes back and is the heartbeat of this defense. Then you got Nick Amon-Moore. We talked about the huge game that he had. Devin Witherspoon flying all over the place. Got an interception in this game as well. it just Tariq Woolen finding his rhythm, his swagger, looking like his old self, looking like the guy they had high hopes he could continue to be, and he's continued to be he's making himself a lot of money, no question about that. Whether it's here or somewhere else, he's gonna be playing in the National Football League for a long time, and he's gonna make a lot of money doing it, playing the position. But this is honestly one of the most complete defenses in the National Football League. And the only reason I don't say the most complete is because the Houston Texans are out there really just mauling people over the last 10 games. So the Seattle Seahawks just have such a bright future. They're so young. I think they're the second youngest team in the National Football League. They got a lot of young guys really, really thriving right now, and that's why you give hope. But then they got veterans. They got DeMarcus Lawrence playing football. Looks like he's having the most fun he's had playing football in a long time. You got Leonard Williams, a guy who's having a blast playing football, the veteran presence. Jaron Reed is coming back. Byron Murphy is blossoming into the player they always hoped he would be, a guy that, some people were calling bust and a lot of different things. His rookie year has really, really had a quietly dominant season. He started some games, has rotated some games, but has been incredibly impactful all season long. And then you're not even mentioning guys like Derek Hall and Boye Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu. And, you can go on and on and on about all these guys they have on the defensive line. They're going in waves. And when it gets into the playoffs and you start wearing teams down, that's when you start to see the strength of this team is they're never tired on defense. They're always swarming. It's first quarter swarming, second quarter swarming, third quarter swarming, fourth quarter turnovers, because they've been swarming the whole game. It's relentless, and you can see this relentless attitude, this relentless behavior, this relentlessness every single play from every single guy. And when you have that, it's a tough team to beat.
No question. And you got to tip your hat to John Schneider. He's put on a masterclass these last couple of years, drafting well, evaluating talent and free agency very well. The trade market, obviously Rashid Shaheed, as we mentioned, it's all starting to add up and form perfectly for the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see how they handle these next couple of games.
Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. And the holidays are here, and the sports schedule is packed tighter than Santa's gift bag. Week 15, football, bowl games, NBA, college hoops, hockey. The world sports slate is loaded. And on Hard Rock Bet, there's always something to unwrap and bet on.
New customers can sign up and bet $5 on any game. If it wins, you'll find $150 in bonus bets on top of your winnings stuffed in your stocking. Now that's holiday magic. Not sure what to place your first bet? Hard Rock Bet just launched a brand new For You page, making it easy to find all your favorite teams, players, and leagues all in one place.
And the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook whenever you're in Florida. And it's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan. Coming soon to many more states.
And they must not play a whole lot of defense at Hard Rock Bet because y'all are racking up promos nonstop. You can find new promos daily on the app.
Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit.
Richard, let's take our commentary to the AFC. We saw a barn burner in Buffalo. Holy cow, the Bills down double digits in the fourth. They look like they're well on their way to a loss. And then Josh Allen starts to look like the MVP of last year that he was. And my goodness, did they take over this game offensively and defensively. Huge win for the Bills. Major comeback. Joe Burrow did as much as he could. 284 yards, 4 touchdowns. You see how good the Cincinnati Bengals can be when they are healthy. But the Bills, you got to tip your hat and give them credit. Backs against the wall, coming off a brutal loss to Miami a couple weeks ago. They find themselves in another dogfight with a team that's well under 500, and they persevere. Richard, your thoughts on this Buffalo Bills game and their major comeback today?
Another incredible game for Josh Allen through the air and with his legs, obviously. in tough conditions. It was snow on the ground. They were in a dogfight. They were down majority of this game. It looked like this game was a lost cause. They were down 21-11 at one point, and the Cincinnati Bengals defense were playing about as well as they've played all season. And then Josh Allen turns it on. He gets a huge touchdown with his legs. I think it was a 44-yard touchdown or so, longest touchdown of his career on the ground. And again, one of the most incredible plays, scrambling. Looks like the play was dead to rights in the red zone. Josh Allen hits Shakir in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, one of the it looked like luck, Mitchell, but you can't call it luck when guys like that continue to play this way and play this way in critical games and in very tough circumstances. And so you got to tip your cap to him. It was a concerning game early on for this McDermott defense. Burrow was having his way with them throughout this game. And honestly, the pick six was a great play, but it was like Joe Burrow was trying to get a touch pass over into the pressure, because they always say when the pressure comes, when they bring pressure, you throw into it. And Burrow tried to throw into it, but he threw this lollipop of a lob pass because it was almost like it surprised him maybe, and he wanted to make sure he got the ball where it was supposed to be, but didn't put too much zip on it, and it ended up being a mistake. I think it was a 60-something yard pick six. Then the next drive, the mistakes compound. The ball gets tipped up, and another interception for Joe Burrow. This is in the fourth quarter, and that's what turned the game. That's what allowed the Buffalo Bills to score back-to-back touchdowns and really just start roaring back in the fourth quarter. T. Higgins played a really good game. Mike Gesicki played a really good game. It looked like the Cincinnati Bengals were gonna take this game and make it really competitive in this AFC North late in the season, but this loss all but eliminates them, and it puts the Buffalo Bills in a really great spot to continue to compete for the top seed in the AFC, and a chance to win this AFC East if they can find a way to beat these Patriots. Obviously, it's not in their control because they need some help along the way as well, but they've done everything they can this week to give themselves a chance. Great game for Josh Allen, a real stellar performance for him. Carried his team to this win in tough conditions. Give him a lot of respect.
Well, you got to. And unlike the Seattle Seahawks, who struggle on the ground, that's the Bills' forte. I mean, when you got a running back in James Cook, who's constantly rushing for 75-plus yards, catching the ball out of backfield, big gains here and there. This Bills team, I think the reason they get a little stagnant and stale offensively at times is because of their wide receiver room. They got a personnel issue. I think it's pretty apparent when you're scooping up Brandon Cooks midway through the season to try to find another safety blanket for Josh Allen. That's going to be the Achilles heel, in my opinion, with this Buffalo Bills team. Can these wide receivers rise up and play in conditions like this during the playoffs and beat teams that are well above 500 as opposed to well below? That's the question I have with this Bills team. There's greatness in there, but it seems like they've been playing awful mediocre a lot of times. They will squeak one out today, Richard, and it's fortunate they did. Otherwise, I mean, the Bengals, like you said, they might be sniffing the AFC North divisional crown if they go the other way with this game. Richard, let's take it to the Shedeur Sanders land in Cleveland. The Browns, I mean, talk about a game that you did not expect to be good against the Tennessee Titans. But Shedeur Sanders put up 364 yards, 3 touchdowns, brings back the Browns against a double-digit deficit against these lowly Titans, and almost ties it up late, but for probably one of the most ridiculous two-point conversion calls that I've ever seen in recent memory. But let's talk Shedeur Sanders. It looks to me like Cleveland might have found someone here for the future. I know you like Shedeur Sanders. You've stood on the podium and sung praises to this man's name for the last couple of years. Are you liking what you see right now despite the loss?
No question. I love what I saw from Shedeur Sanders today. Obviously, there's still some growth there. There's growth. Every rookie quarterback who ever steps in the National Football League will have growth. They'll have growth each game. They'll have things you can do better. But do you see the potential? Do you see an NFL quarterback? Do you see NFL-level throws? Do you see NFL-level decision-making? And you see all those things with Shedeur Sanders. You saw a dime of a throw on his first touchdown pass to his first touchdown pass was to Njoku. It was a pinpoint pass, tight coverage, him off of his back foot, maybe not the best footwork in the world, but accurate pass for a touchdown. Then you see a really beautifully layered throw to Jerry Jeudy that ends up in a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy catches the ball in stride, does the rest, gets the ball to the end zone in a huge, I think it was a 60-yard touchdown pass. But you saw great things from Shedeur. He even did it with his legs. He had a 14-yard touchdown run where he I think it was around 14 yards, touchdown run where he sacrificed his body. He ended up with 4 total touchdowns in this game. And the underlying thing, I know you don't worry about storylines and these background stories, but he was playing against Cam Ward, and they're known to be really good friends. Cam Ward, obviously the number 1 pick in the draft, and he was outplayed today by Shedeur Sanders and far outplayed. Shedeur Sanders was 23 of 42 for 364, 3 passing touchdowns, did have a really bad, I mean, not a bad INT, but a INT you don't want. A pass I'm sure he would have wanted back. He was a little high, trying to take a shot down the field. Woods made him pay for it. Again, a learning opportunity. He's not the only one to throw an interception. He's not the first. Won't be the last. But what you did see in this game was consistency from him. You saw, hey, when it's not there, he's either getting the ball, throwing the ball away, or he's eating it. He only took 2 sacks in this game. That's growth, and I'm sure the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns is excited to hear that, because that's one of the knocks on Shedeur Sanders. He holds the ball too long. He takes unnecessary sacks that puts his team in a really difficult situation. He's a guy that really values completion percentage, so sometimes he doesn't throw the ball away as much as he probably should. I think today he threw all that out the window, said, hey, whatever it takes to win, I'm going to do. In a game where the run game wasn't necessarily as effective as it usually is. The run game for the for the Cleveland Browns is something they usually lean on. Judkins has been phenomenal this season, has really been productive, but today it just wasn't his day. He had 14 carries for 26 yards, only 1.9 carry average, but Shedeur Sanders carried the weight this game. He did a good job each and every drive of making good decisions, figuring out where he needs to go, going through his progressions, and that's growth. That's what you would expect. He played like a guy, not like a guy picked in the 5th round. He played like a guy you would have, if you didn't know any better, would have thought was picked in the 1st round, and probably should have been picked in the 1st or 2nd round of this draft. But, that's not here nor there. There are quarterbacks in the league playing worse than him, drafted a lot higher. But who am I? I'm just a humble servant. The questionable thing and frustrating, probably the most frustrating thing in this game, if you're just a casual fan, not even if you're a fan of the Titans or the Browns, was a 2-point conversion at the end. Shedeur Sanders drives this team down the field, they score the touchdown, and you're like, okay, all right, they need a 2-point conversion. What are they going to do? This guy has been fantastic. They put the ball in his hands 42 times. He's completed 23 passes, 364 yards. What is he going to do this time? Even if you decide to run it, the run game isn't doing great. But you take him out the game. You take him out the game on the most critical play of the game. And then Judkins, who's not a quarterback, who's a really good running back, I believe, and is going to be a really good running back in the future, forgets on a oh my God, Mitchell, on a play where it's a wildcat and so much was going through his head, so much he had to give the play call, he had to do this, he had to do that, and then he forgets to pitch the ball. Mitchell, he had taken 5 steps past the guy he was supposed to pitch the ball to before he remembered, oh my God, I'm supposed to pitch the ball, and then tried to turn around and throw it back to the guy. That's what we do for the game? Like, I think Stefanski has done a pretty solid job in Cleveland, and I think he's done some good things, especially early on. He won Coach of the Year a couple times, but my goodness, was that awful. My goodness, was that awful. And I know he's going to be criticized of it because of how polarizing Shedeur is in America right now. And Shedeur played a fantastic game. He gave you a chance to win the game. He gave you a chance to tie it. And you say, hey, we're going to take you out. We're going to give the play to a guy who doesn't really call plays in the most critical time in the game, and we're going to see if he can do it. We're going to say, hey, can our rookie running back get us where we need to be, Mitchell. That's what they said. They said we're going to put the game in our rookie running back's hands. He's going to call the right play, make the right decision instead of our rookie quarterback who plays quarterback, whose job it is to call plays and run plays. We're just going to take him out and see what happens. If I'm not in Cleveland Browns defense, I am frustrated. I am pissed. I mean, they didn't play their greatest game by any means. They gave up 31 points. But what was that, Kevin Stefanski? I can't. I'm sure somebody can explain that play. Somebody can peel back the layers and tell me why they went with a rookie running back, Wildcat. They've had some success with it, sure. But Mitchell,
you want to put on that tinfoil cap with me here, Richard? I got a conspiracy for you. Let's put it on. I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. I think he's underrated. I wouldn't mind him as my head coach if I was the Cleveland Browns. But they're 3-10, 3-9. You know, Titans are 1-11. There's something called draft positioning, right? I mean, this Cleveland Browns team is not going to make the playoffs. Richard, could he have gotten this from ownership? Hey, Kevin, we got this play that the owner wants to run. Why don't we try it out now? We don't want to win this game anyways, because that's kind of what it looked like to me. Looks like, seems like, feels like the Cleveland Browns did not actually want to win this game, Richard. That being said, I will say this about Cleveland. You know, next year, they're bringing back Deshaun Watson and his massive cap hit. There's nothing you can do about that. Once this team gets out from under that huge mistake that they made in getting rid of Baker Mayfield and bringing in Deshaun, I think you might have something with Shedeur here. I mean, you're going to have a ton of cap space. You're still going to have Myles Garrett in his prime. Who knows? I mean, maybe Cleveland is actually doing something smart by losing this game.
Yeah, I want to see that vision, Mitchell. I want to say, oh man, they're above the brain. They're big brain in this thing, but they're not. They're not big brain in this thing. You could have lost the game in OT, Mitchell. There's many other ways you could lose a game. Like, if you're telling me you decided, hey, we're going to do this to lose the game, it's FBI is going to add to their investigation, no question about it. And Kevin Stefanski is going to be on that list. But I really don't know what they do at quarterback next season. It's going to be a crowded quarterback room. What do you do with a healthy Deshaun Watson? There are a lot of QB-needy teams. Every year there's going to be a QB-needy team. Does anybody still believe in Deshaun Watson like that? Potentially. Can he add some value to somebody? Probably not for that contract, because not a lot of people are going to want to pay him that money. Are you desperate enough to eat that salary for maybe a couple draft picks? Those are decisions they're going to have to make. But the way Stefanski talks about Shedeur Sanders, and I mean, maybe he talks about all rookie quarterbacks and young quarterbacks this way, it doesn't seem like a guy that's excited about him. Like a guy that he's excited about playing and excited for his success. And I didn't hear him after this game. I didn't have a chance to hear his press conference after this game. But if you listen to the way Vrabel talks about Drake May, you know, or even the way Sean Payton talks about Bo Nix, or, you know, coaches who speak confidence into their young quarterbacks, there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said to know that your coach and play caller thinks highly of you, thinks you can get the job done, believes you're the guy. And obviously they didn't believe Shedeur was the guy, because if they thought he was the guy, they would have drafted him higher. They drafted Dylan Gabriel higher. So that's the guy who obviously in their mind, in the ownership's mind, in the front office's mind, in the coach's mind, is the better player. Now, Shedeur has played better. Dylan Gabriel doesn't have a game comparable to this, where he, in my opinion, where he had four total touchdowns in the game, where he threw for 364, where he looked like an NFL quarterback. A lot of Dylan Gabriel's games were sometimes efficient-ish, but they were conservative. He just was trying to play no-risk football. Hey, I'm not going to push the ball down the field. I don't want to risk a turnover, so I'm just going to lean on my defense and run game and hope for the best. Shedeur Sanders is playing, hey, I will push it down the field. And now they do throw screens, and he benefits from some yak and running backs making big plays. But running back fumbled the ball today. It hurt this team. That's probably a big reason they lost this game as well. But I think Shedeur Sanders showed he's an NFL quarterback, and he can be a really good NFL quarterback if he continues to develop and continues to build on this. And I know people talked about how arrogant he was, like, oh man, this is only a week of practice. This is only a week of practice. Like, what, like it just rubs people the wrong way. And for people that have grown up in that culture and grown up in neighborhoods like that, where you have to walk it like you talk it, where you have to back up what you say, where you have to really be about what you say you're about, it didn't sound that crazy to me. Sound like a guy who knows himself, who's been through the fire, who thinks he can go through the fire and knows he can do the job he's being asked to do. And that's sometimes what is needed. Maybe every other quarterback doesn't outwardly say it, but they feel it. I guarantee you Drake May feels he's the best quarterback in the National Football League. I'm not even going to talk about the top 5 guys, Josh Allen and Burrow and Lamar and Aaron Rodgers, and talk about how they feel about themselves when they step on that football field, because there is no doubt. So a young kid just outwardly displaying it, it's going to always rub people the wrong way, but so what? So what? Maybe that's why y'all not special. Maybe you need to change the way you feel about yourself to be able to go out into the world and perform like you're capable, to really realize your potential. Maybe that's not the right way to do things in your eyes, but there are many ways to skin a cat, many ways to have success, and many ways to play this game. And that's part of the journey. Maybe one day Shedeur Sanders will wake up and be like, I don't really want to play it like that no more. I want to go a different route. I want to be quiet, speak up on my teammates, but he speaks highly of his teammates. He celebrates his teammates. He does the things. He doesn't throw his coach under the bus at all when coach makes obvious mistakes. I'm sure in his press conference, they're going to ask him, what did you feel about Kevin Stefanski's decision to take you from under center and put Judkins in on the most critical part of the game? And he's probably going to say, hey, I trust my coach. Hey, if that's what they decide, that's what they think is best, that's what we got to go with. I'm just excited to be a part of this team and a part of this organization. He says the right things. So it's frustrating when guys treat young quarterbacks a certain way that believe in themselves, but, it is what it is. It's the league.
Yeah, well, Richard, let's take the conversation to the AFC North. The Steelers go on the road in a must-win scenario and beat the Baltimore Ravens at M&T Bank, and Aaron Rodgers looks like vintage Aaron Rodgers again. There was a lot of conversation about his hand and coming into this game, how he's going to have to be in shotgun all game and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers finally looked good offensively. This was an offense that had been sputtering the last few weeks. There was a lot of conversation about should they just put Mason Rudolph in this game to give him a better shot to win. Aaron Rodgers quickly quieted those conversations. His connection with DK Metcalf today was the difference. 7 receptions for 148 yards. Impressive win by the Steelers. But what in the world is going on with Baltimore? I mean, they have not looked themselves all season long. I understand they're dealing with injuries, but come on. I mean, offensively, these are the same guys that they've had on the field for the last numerous seasons, and they have not been able to get it going. Before we go into this game, Richard, what has happened to the Baltimore Ravens that we all knew from the last couple of years?
I really can't explain it. But it starts with Lamar Jackson. He just doesn't look like the guy, the MVP, the annual MVP candidate, the perennial MVP candidate that he's been. He doesn't look as dynamic. You've seen him jump on and off the injury report for various things. Maybe there's something underlying there that is much more serious than Baltimore Ravens are letting on. We saw them get fined for the game where they activated him and said, hey, he's limited, et cetera, et cetera. He has a chance to play, and then ultimately decided not to play him in the game. So I think there's something going on. They started the season 1-5 after he got hurt, but they didn't look that great then. We can talk about it all really started to go downhill. Maybe that Buffalo game when Derrick Henry fumbled that ball in the fourth quarter and things kind of just started to cascade. Things that are unusual for a Baltimore Ravens team started to happen, and that's continuing to happen. And with all that said, they still got a slim chance to win this division because Pittsburgh is just as inconsistent as Baltimore is. You don't know what you're going to get from them from one week to the next. They got the Dolphins who are playing really good football. The Steelers face the Dolphins, and they got your Detroit Lions, who who could go either way. Your Detroit Lions could put a hurting on them. And then the Browns, a division game that's going to be rough and tough and tumble. And then you got the Baltimore Ravens. So that last game could potentially be for this division. But Lamar Jackson just looks out of sorts right now for some reason. And this was his first touchdown in I think 4 weeks, first passing touchdown in 4 weeks. And that's the way he's been struggling. And another interception. I think over the last 4 weeks, he's got 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions, which is just crazy. And this was his first rushing touchdown this game since week 1.
It's unheard of.
These are things that it's unheard of. It's mind-boggling. And those are the things that you're like, hey, unless I go into the Baltimore Ravens locker room and building and really see what's going on, I can't really explain it because it just looks odd. Derrick Henry he had 25 carries in this game, and usually when Derrick Henry gets over 20-something carries, they win these games. But they didn't. And the Steelers were the better team this game. The Steelers were the better team the entire game. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf we're dealing with a lot of outside noise and about how they can't connect and how DK might not be the guy. And what they showed in this game is maybe DK is the guy. And things just weren't clicking. They just didn't have the feel early on. But if they can play like they did in this game, they'll be a tough outfit to beat. If their defense can get an interception and sack the quarterback in critical situations like they did in this game, they will be okay. But on the other side, Baltimore's defense, no sacks, no interceptions, just a pedestrian effort from a defense that has been historically really good. You always expect good defense from Baltimore. Now, last few years, they've had stretches where they've looked awful. They've been one of the worst pass defenses and scoring defenses statistically, and then they've had stretches where they've turned it on and looked really great. But since Mike McDonald has left, they aren't the same kind of defense, and that's been showing. That's been a big change in this team. And you wonder, in the 39th meeting between Tomlin and Harbaugh, like, is both of their times coming to an end? Are these teams going to move on and say, hey, it's a new guard and times are changing? These teams don't hire new coaches very often. These aren't those kind of franchises. But you have to wonder if the powers that be are thinking about, hey, maybe it's time for a change.
You never know. But I mean, regardless, this is a massive win for Pittsburgh. This is a team that looked like they wanted it a lot more. I know they couldn't get the rushing game going today, only 34 rushing yards. But I tell you what, Kenneth Gainwell has been a big low-key addition for them this offseason. The guy in the red zone, giving it to him on the edge. He seems to be consistent and helping them get into the end zone. So, like you said, a couple big games on the horizon. And that one in Ford Field against the Lions, heaven forbid they beat the Detroit Lions, but they are going to be in must-win mode. So that's going to be like a playoff game. Every game going forward for them is going to be like a playoff game. Let's talk Jaguars and Colts. I mean, the Colts were one of the hottest teams in all. They were the hottest team in all of football to start the season. Daniel Jones, total revelation. Indiana Jones, right, Richard? We haven't heard about Indiana Jones a whole lot recently. I know he's been battling the leg injury. Now he's got this Achilles injury. Is this the end of the Indianapolis Colts magical season?
Sadly, it looks that way, Mitchell. And it's unfortunate because they had been playing really great football, complimentary football. They went all in trading for Sauce Gardner, and it looked like maybe that move would propel them into the stratosphere that they wanted to be in, of AFC contender, and then you lose Daniel Jones. And that's the unfortunate part of this game when you're trying to battle through injury, when you're trying to say, hey, I'm fighting for my team. Sometimes your sacrifice isn't rewarded. And your body is trying to compensate, but in trying to compensate, you overcompensate and you injure something else. I've been victim of this many times. I tear my knee up, my other quad strains, my glute strain, my back strains. I tear one Achilles, the other one's banged up, et cetera, et cetera. But these are the kind of sacrifices that I'm not even sure fans recognize to this degree, because at this point they're like, oh, well, Daniel Jones, that's unfortunate. That sucks for my team. Not that it sucks for Daniel Jones to go out there and sacrifice the way he did for my team and potentially have a season-ending injury that will travel on to next year and potentially put him out for some of next season and drastically affect his free agency and the money that he can make going forward, the money that he can make as an Indianapolis Colt, et cetera. That's why I think that was the frustration of him slamming his helmet on the ground. He immediately understood the consequences and the results of what just happened. And that's the saddest part about this. I'm so sad because he had been having such a resurgence, such a really cool season and you want to see that for guys. If you guys struggling, you got to report it the way it is, but you don't want to see him continue to struggle and get beat up. You'd love to see a comeback story. And he was having a beautiful comeback story. The Indianapolis Colts were having a beautiful revival. Everybody's talking about the owner, her coming down, wearing the headset, et cetera, her the note-taking, et cetera, et cetera. It's fun. It's a great story. And you're looking forward to how they're going to do in the postseason. They had been playing well defensively, had been a top 5, top 10 defense. You look like an MVP candidate in the backfield with Jonathan Taylor. 16 touchdowns on the season now. And now it looks like that has all fallen apart. You're now going with a rookie quarterback, Leonard, out of Notre Dame, struggled in this game, 18 of 29, 145 in interception. That's no fault of his own. We're not going to judge him off of that. He needs a week, to prepare and then the game plan and design a plan around him and his strengths. But now they got to go and play the Seattle Seahawks, a team that's playing fantastic football, that's rolling. They got to play the Seattle Seahawks and try to get a win there, because you're going from, hey, we're leading this division, we're running away with this division, to now the Jaguars are winning this division. The Houston Texans are on an incredible run. You could find yourself out of the playoffs with a few losses. With just a few losses, Mitchell, you could go from the number 1 seed, who everybody, the Cinderella, to Cinderella losing a glass slipper off her foot. And that's the way this league is. That's how important the quarterback position is to a team. And so it's really sad. It's really sad that this has happened to Daniel Jones, because it was such a cool story and going to be such a cool off season for him and his family, and it was going to be well earned. But unfortunately, he got the Achilles injury. Hopefully he goes to a doctor. They have new surgeries and new techniques they're using. That's why Aaron Rodgers was able to come back as quickly as he was. Hopefully he goes and gets that from Elatrosh, and he's able to come back as quickly before next season. I mean, fingers crossed, you want the best for the guy. But obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence are in command of this division now. Trevor Lawrence had one of his best games of the season, throwing the ball to Brian Thomas throughout the game. Had a really good game. Tim Patrick had a really good game and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers has been enjoying his time in Jacksonville, it appears. He had a touchdown in this game. The defense continues to turn the ball over at a high tilt. And that's the reason this team has had success. They continue to find a way, regardless of how many yards and all that they give up. They're a bend but don't break defense, and they turn the ball over at a high tilt. You can do that. You can find a way to get wins in this game, and that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars have done. They're 9-4 now, and look to be on their way to win the AFC South.
No question about it. And what stood out to me today especially is Trevor Lawrence. It seems that his game it matured a little bit. He's getting more involved with his legs. He doesn't seem as timid with the ball in his hands, and he extended a couple of these drives by putting his head down and driving for yardage. And then the other side of it is Travis Etienne. I mean, this is a year that no one really expected much out of him, but reality is he's playing for next year as well. He's going to be a free agent after this season. 2 touchdowns today. And then kudos to James Gladstone, the young GM that they brought in. He's an aggressive GM. He saw what happened with them obviously moving up to get Travis Hunter. Whether you like the move or not, he stuck his neck out. And he wants a what he called a generational talent on his team. Once he goes down, he goes and immediately acquires Jacoby Myers, who's had a couple good games for this offense. The Jags look very good. I'm not going to put them in this category where I think they're Super Bowl contenders, because I don't, but I think they have a legitimate shot at winning this division. However, I think the Houston Texans are just the better football team. The Jags may have the better record, though. We'll see what happens, but overall, I leave this game very impressed with what I saw from the Jags and Trevor Lawrence, and kudos to James Gladstone for what he's been able to do in his first year as a GM. Let's talk about a team that needed a win and did not have the mojo today. At home against the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just appear lifeless offensively. You can see the Mike Evans effect play itself out week after week. Without him there, it seems like this offense is just totally different. Emeka Egbuka, this guy was, rookie of the year, surefire rookie of the year. When's the last time we mentioned his name, Richard? He had a crucial drop in the end zone on this game. What has happened to these Tampa Bay Bucs? Because as they continue their downfall, their counterpart, the Carolina Panthers, are looking steadily, not even in the rearview mirror anymore, Richard. They are in the driver's seat to win this division. The lowly Carolina Panthers are going to potentially take over this division from the Tampa Bay Bucs. I might be speechless here, Rich.
No question. And what's crazy is the NFL does a phenomenal job with these schedules, because the Tampa Bay Bucs and the Carolina Panthers play each other twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. So both teams will have a chance to decide their own destiny against one another. But this was a really head-scratching loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have them this week on Thursday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, who just struggled against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not sure the ratings will be great this week, but but Baker,
you're going to bring the energy regardless, Richard.
I'm going to bring the energy, Mitchell. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to talk about it. But Baker Mayfield really, really struggled in this game, and that's the biggest concern for this team. Is the reason they were everybody's darling, and really everybody thought, hey, man, this team could really go even without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, at 100%, was because Baker Mayfield was playing at such a high level, putting up big numbers. They were putting up big point numbers offensively. But now you look up in Baker Mayfield, 14 of 30, 122, a touchdown and an interception against the Saints defense that honestly hasn't been great this season. And then you lose a game to Tyler Shaw, who was 13 of 20. It looked like, Kellen Moore was like, hey, we're just going to stay in your wheelhouse. Don't lose us the game. He did throw an interception in the game, no touchdown, but he again used his legs. That's the evolution of quarterbacks in the National Football League. Knowing when and when not to use your legs. And Tyler Shaw had 7 rushes for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. That was the difference in the game. You can't have this loss if you're Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it's all is not lost. The NFC South is every year it comes down to the wire, and every year the Tampa Bay Buccaneers find a way, at least for the last 4 years, to get it done, to win the games they need to win, to scrape and grit out the wins that they need to win to get. And it seems like Mike Evans is on his way back into the fold, and I think people will have much more appreciation for him each time he comes back from injury. Unfortunately, it looks like his streak of 1,000-yard seasons is going to end at 11, but he'll have impact in the next few games, and I think he'll get them over the hump and help them win the number 1 seed. But this was just a really bad loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I mean, not even a great win for the Saints, if I'm being honest, because at this point in the season, it's what we talked about a little earlier in the show with the Cleveland Browns. Like, draft position matters. Like, if you're going to be bad, then be bad. Like, don't decide at the end you want to go upset people and damage the division and do all this, because when the draft picks come down, you're going to wish you had that leverage. You're going to wish you could get that guy, and you're going to be like, how important was that win against the Bucs? What did it get you other than a worse player, not the player, a worse position in the draft? I mean, that's the stuff. Not that you tank games or lose games on purpose, because nobody's built like that in the NFL, but it just this is a game that hurts both teams, honestly, and it's weird.
It certainly is. Before we leave this game, in regards to Mike Evans, if anyone wants to debate the topic of whether he is a Hall of Famer, I think the absence of Mike Evans on this roster over the last month and a half shows how good of a player this guy is, Richard. In my opinion, this guy is a Hall of Famer. No question about it. I guess that leaves us with the Detroit Lions, Richard. They took on the Dallas Cowboys in my neck of the woods, Detroit, Michigan. You were in town. We had another great time together. It's always great welcoming you to my side of the country. And you were able to see an absolute spectacle. The Detroit Lions slapped 44 on the board and took care of the red-hot Dallas Cowboys. We talked pregame. You said you were going to show some love to this Detroit Lion team. They needed it, Richard, and they showed up for you. Jameer Gibbs is the story of the NFL this week, in my opinion. He has firmly put his name in the hat for the most disruptive, elusive, best. I don't even want to call him best running back. I mean, he might be the best running back in football. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Richard, but in my opinion, this guy just tied Barry Sanders for the most touchdowns by anyone before the age of 24, his 47th touchdown of his career. Your thoughts on Jameer Gibbs and this Detroit Lions team who desperately needed a win?
A huge win for this Detroit Lions team. They did it with a complete effort. Obviously, this defense hasn't been phenomenal this season, but they got a ton of pressure. They got more sacks in this game against the Dallas Cowboys than they had the last 4 games combined. And your guy Al-Qadim Muhammad had a huge game, multiple sacks, and this is a confidence builder for that defense. But you look on the other side, and Jared Goff, 309 yards and a touchdown. David Montgomery getting involved, had a big run in the game. And then your guy Jameer Gibbs, 3 touchdowns in the game. One of the most impactful players in the National Football League, one of the best players in the National Football League, regardless of position, continues to make huge impact, breaking record after record. You could talk about his yards per carry over the first 45 games, beating Barry Sanders. He has 5.5 yards per carry through his first 45 games. Jerry Rice had 43 total touchdowns. Jameer Gibbs has 47. Emmitt Smith had 4,600 yards, total yards. Jameer Gibbs has 4,700 yards. And he's doing it through the air, on the ground. He's been phenomenal, and he's been consistent all season long. And you got to appreciate that. This was a Dallas Cowboys team that was rolling, that was red hot. CeeDee Lamb came into this game and really was dominating before he went out with that concussion. He was having a fantastic day. He ended up with 6 receptions for 121 yards, and then he went out when he had that concussion where his head slapped against the turf. Unfortunate. And then Flournoy, who I think had 20 career catches coming into this game, had 9 in the game, 415 yards and a touchdown. And enough has been said about George Pickens and his performance. Was he double teamed a lot? Was he, playing? Was he engaged? Enough has been said about that. But I think that's going to be the story of this offseason, what the Dallas Cowboys decide to do. They have draft picks. They have a really talented offense. Obviously, this was the number 1 offense in the National Football League coming into this game, so that they can score points. They can push the ball down the field. They can run the ball. Javonte Williams has had a resurgence of a season of his career. It's the defensive side where they give up 40 points. And you think, hey, Quentin Williams has had 21 pressures in the last 3 games. And they got all these trades. Diggy Zua has also been doing great since Quentin Williams has come. And the defense has just been playing better overall. But then they have a setback against a team that's a true contender. And you question if they're really what they were over those last 3 games, or was that a mirage? They're going to have to address it. They're going to have to address the defense as a whole, figure out if Eberflus is the answer, if he gets another year. And personnel-wise, they're going to have to make some decisions, whether to draft more guys at the position. You're going to need more pass rush. More pass rushers, the better. And special teams-wise, what you're going to do to help this team be what Jerry Jones thinks they can be. He wants to win a Super Bowl before he passes. They're going to have to put a better team together.
No question about it. Back on the other side of the field with the Detroit Lions, we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown suffer an ankle injury in the Thanksgiving Day game when he got rolled up on a play, and a lot thought that he was not going to be playing this game. He was listed as doubtful, then moved to questionable, then was a game-time decision, and ultimately he went out there. And a lot of people thought, hey, maybe he's just going to go out there, run a couple routes, and be a decoy. That was not the case at all. Amon-Ra St. Brown recorded 6 catches for 92 yards and didn't look injured at all. I know the guy, toughness is in his DNA. We've all heard about his family and his dad and just his genuine upbringing. But this kind of a player reminds me a lot of your days, Richard, and the Legion of Boom. I know you guys played through your injuries, your ailments. No one ever complained about it. It was always, hey, strap up and get ready to play. And that toughness, when you have that on your team, I know it's infectious. What does it mean to play with somebody like Amon-Ra, who you know is in a world of hurt, but is going to go out there and put his ass on the line in a must-win game?
I think it's inspiring. I think it's inspiring to his coaches, to his teammates, and it gives him even more respect in that building and with the fan base because they know he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's a guy that thinks this team is great, and when your best players sacrifice and put their bodies on the line for a team like that, then other guys know that's the standard. And that's setting a standard for other young guys when they have injuries or they're a little nicked up in the decisions they make going into it. If your veterans say, hey, man, I'm a little sore, I'm sitting this one out, then young guys, it's going to trickle down. And the opposite is true as well. If your best guys and your best players are your hardest workers and guys that put it all on the line for the team, then the young guys will know that's the way we do things in Detroit. And that's the message that Amon-Ra St. Brown is sending to this team and to the league that, hey, regardless, I'm going to do everything in my power to give my team the best chance to win. If my body is able, I will be out there. And he put on an incredibly inspiring performance that you got to respect and you appreciate if you're a Detroit Lions fan. That's a hat tip to him.
Richard, before we leave this game, I got to ask, I mean, it was the talk of the town. George Pickens didn't seem to love your commentary on him during the game, although it was valid in my opinion. Richard, what are your thoughts about his comments? I know players get emotional, especially after losses in big games, but some of the statements were just not factual whatsoever. Your thought about George Pickens' comments post-game?
I don't really have any thoughts about it, Mitchell. It's a young kid getting emotional. You know, it's our job to analyze the performance, and in that game, it's less about, you know, the comments about his play and more about the potential you believe he has. And if you think he can be the best receiver in the National Football League, and that's the expectation you have for him, when you see a performance like that, you're disappointed. And so that was the commentary, and I think that's where I was speaking from was he has all the ability in the world, and he has a new start, and he's been playing like the guy that we think he's capable of being. And then in this game, you're saying, oh, cloud coverage, and man, they were bracketing. So we don't. I've played against some of the best receivers in the National Football League: the Calvin Johnsons, the Julio Jones, the AJ Greens, the Antonio Browns. If cloud coverage made them shut it down, Mitchell, they would never play. And that's the thing, you know. And it's a lazy excuse for people to say, oh, well, he was getting double teamed. Why do you think Dak was still throwing him the football? Because that, for a guy with that kind of talent, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. If he's a guy with the kind of talent that he has, Dak's going to find a way. Dak is a good enough player to get him the football, and that is why Dak targeted him. Dak sees the coverage. He sees the cloud, but he also knows this is his best guy, and he knows what he's capable of. So when he sends him on a 7 pump, he says, hey, I see the double, but I don't think that's enough to stop him. And that's what you agree with when you see the talent that George Pickens has. You say, you got to think, no matter what, who's out there, double, cloud, bracket, whatever, that's not enough to stop me. And I think when George Pickens realizes that, the league is in trouble. You can't say, hey, I recognize I'm being bracketed, so I'm taking the playoff. That's wasting the gift. And that's the reason I was frustrated. And I you know, his agent, David Mulligetta, is a good friend of mine, and he reached out and we had a conversation about it. And so everybody's on the same page. There's no ill will or bad blood there. But I want it for him, and you can't want it for somebody more than they want it for themselves. And I think that was my frustration in that game, is because everybody sees it. Everybody sees what he can become. And it's like, ooh, I looked at that game and I said, Terrion Arnold is on IR. They got a Meek Robertson, and they got my guy DJ Reed. Not the biggest corners in the world. Very bad matchups against George Pickens. Very awful matchups. Like, that's the kind of game, especially with CeeDee Lamb on the other side. You're not going to just single CeeDee Lamb and double George Pickens. They've leaned safeties over the last few games. I think that's what the Kansas City Chiefs did. But I thought this was a game that George Pickens was going to eat and feast. And they didn't really target him early on because CD was having a way. He was having his way. But once CD went out, I was like, okay, it's about that time. Like, they don't have a choice. They're going to have to feed it to George Pickens. And sure, they were finding Flournoy because George Pickens was allowing him to Pickens was pulling coverage and allowing. But still, when you're a guy, coverage cannot dictate you. Coverage cannot dictate whether you get the, and that's what Dak was saying. That's what Dak was saying with not only his voice, but with his reads. He didn't care that he was bracketed. He said, hey, my guy's bracketed, my guy's better. Ball. My guy's double teamed, you're doubling him, he's faster, he's better, ball. That's why we were seeing the targets that George Pickens was getting. And so when people were like, oh, you're just a hater, you just like, I am absolutely not. I'm the exact opposite. I want the same thing probably everybody who's a fan of him wants. And I'm disappointed that we didn't get that. So I don't really have a response to his comments, but that's what I was meaning in my analysis of it.
I don't mean to speak for you, but I will. Richard, I don't know if I've ever met anyone that cares more about other people's success than you. You've always been a player's guy. You've always wanted guys to get paid more. You were part of the NFLPA executive committee, always driving up the salary cap as much as possible. You represented yourself on the field. You try to educate other players about representing themselves and what to look out for, the questions to ask their agents. So in terms of a guy that's a hater you are not. A pragmatic individual that has objective commentary, you are. And you called a spade. And like you said on that game day, the tape showed itself, and it's your job to comment on it. So that's what we'll leave that.
No question about it. We'll leave it there.
Richard, the next game we got here, NFC North showdown, and obviously my eyes are all over this game. The Packers are hosting the red-hot Chicago Bears, first place in the conference. Who saw this coming? Ben Johnson at the helm. This is a true test. I mean, we thought last week was a big-time test on the road against Philly. You were there. You saw them firsthand. I think they answered a lot of questions for any of the doubters out there, and now they go on the road in a division battle against the Green Bay Packers. It comes down to the wire. Interception by your boy, Keyshawn Nixon, friend of the program, to seal this game. How impressed were you with the Green Bay Packers in this win?
I was really impressed. Overall team effort. A lot of good things on both sides of the football. Obviously, the Keyshawn Nixon interception was the game sealer. A lot of people holding their breath, but it was a great battle back and forth for both teams. I mean, in the cold, some people would say this is what football is about. I'm sure those players wouldn't say this is what football is about, freezing cold and 8-degree weather. But the teams executed at a high level. Teams that have a lot of respect for one another. Jordan Love played a really good game, 17 of 25, 234, 3 touchdowns. Did have the interception to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but delivered some really accurate passes. Christian Watson made some huge plays in this game. Only had 4 receptions. I thought they, could get him the ball a little bit more in the second half. Had a great first half, 2 touchdowns, but I thought that was one of his best games, and I thought they would keep feeding him. He looked like he had a good feel. They kept catching the Bears in man-to-man coverage with C.J. Gardner-Johnson on him, and they kept taking advantage of him every chance they got. They surprised the Bears early on with the Bo Melton bomb for 45 yards and a touchdown, but you could see the chess match going on between these two coaches. I think Green Bay had a great advantage early on, and then in the second half, the Bears started to figure it out. They start churning yards out on the ground with Swift and Monungai. Burton started to catch some rhythm at the receiver spot. Caleb Williams was 19-35, 186, 2 touchdowns in that interception. I'm sure he wants that one back, but I really just didn't understand the call there. You know, you only needed a yard. I felt like they wasted way too much time. They were in control. They had timeouts and all that. And even Tom Brady on the broadcast was saying, you know, you don't got to go too fast, but, you know, got to have a little bit of a sense of urgency. And I didn't feel like they had that. Felt like they could have ran it, got the first down, called a timeout, you know, had a conversation and ran better plays down the stretch. But a learning opportunity, and I'm sure Green Bay's excited because that was a hard-fought, well-deserved win, a hard-earned win in a division. Gives them control of this division and control of their destiny down the stretch in terms of winning this division. All they got to do is win the games ahead of them. But again, they play this team again, and next time it'll be in Chicago. And that's the cool thing about division games is you never know which one's going to be the one that determines it. But I look forward to seeing the next game as well. This was one of the better games for Jordan Love and this offense. Josh Jacobs had an unbelievable play that really helped solidify and seal this game for him, where it looked like they pitch play on, was it 4th and 1? Mm-hmm. And looked like they had him bottled up in the backfield, and he found a way to break, 4 unblocked Bears and Josh Jacobs, and he found a way to get through, break through, and almost make it to the end zone before Byard was able to bring him down. But this is a cool game. I can't wait to hear LaFleur's comments after the game because you heard Ben Johnson's. They played it over and over and over, and you could tell that it irritated the Packers. Both the staff and the players. So, I'm sure he'll have something to say after the game, and he should, as he should. To the winner goes the spoils, as we always say.
No question about it. Rich, a couple things stand out for me, specifically with the Packers. This offense was stagnant against Philly, as a lot of teams are. You saw a little bit of the hangover of losing Tucker Kraft. That was going to be a big thing for the hurdle for them to jump over. And ultimately they got Christian Watson back off the ACL injury, and he looks like he's healthy now. He's been hugely impactful 3 out of these 4 last games. Obviously his play against the Detroit Lions helped them seal that game. And now we see it here with 2 touchdowns. You see Green Bay adapting. But I'm going to hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it. I like Chicago. I mean, they got a heck of a team. You can see Ben Johnson evolving this team into similarly to how Detroit was built, right? I mean, you got DeAndre Swift going for 13 carries, 63 yards. He's kind of like your Jameer Gibbs. And then I know they like Kyle Monungai out of Rutgers. This guy was a force in college, was widely unrecognized because he was playing at Rutgers. And this is another David Montgomery type, the hammer that they bring in these goal line situations. You got to love it. If you're a Bears fan, despite a loss, I think there's a lot of promise with this team. As they close this schedule down the stretch, it's going to be tough for them. I mean, that's the reality of it. They're going to see this Packers team again at home, and then they got my Detroit Lions to finish off the season. Like you said, these script writers know these games are going to matter. There's a strong probability, Richard, that game at the end of the season might decide the destiny of both teams, whether they make it to the playoffs or not. We'll see how it plays out, but the NFC playoff race is a wild one. And then let's go to your side of the country, the NFC West. The LA Rams prove why they are at the top of a lot of folks' power ranks. Despite the loss last week, they take care of the Arizona Cardinals with absolutely no problem, 45-17. We saw a lot of Blake Corum in this game, 12 rushes for 128 yards. How impressive were the Rams to you in this one?
They were incredibly impressive. Obviously, the Cardinals haven't played well this season, but a division game is a division game, and they took care of business. Matt Stafford continues his MVP campaign. You may see a defensive player factor into that for the first time in the history of the National Football League, but they don't like to put MVPs on bad teams. So Myles Garrett, I'm sorry, they're not going to give it to you, babe. But Defensive Player of the Year, they don't mind giving it to players on bad teams, so they'll definitely give him that award. But it was just a completely complete domination from the Rams from start to finish. Blake Corum, 12 carries for 128, 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams, 13 carries for 84 yards and the touchdown. Puka Nacua, 7 catches for 167, and a Randy Moss on head top, as the kids say, in the game. But they just looked great. This was one of their better offensive performances. And on the defensive side, they looked really good. Obviously there's always going to be things you can correct and things you can get better at, but in the end, this is what you expected from the Rams in this game. It's the next couple games that'll really determine things for the Rams, for everybody. I mean, again, we talked about the script writers, we talked about the schedule writers for the National Football League. The Rams have your Lions coming up. That's going to be a huge game for both teams. Both teams have to have that win. If the Rams lose that game and then they got Seattle the next week, pretty much for what could be the 1 seed. The 1 seed's flipping and flopping every week because of the teams that play. Then the Rams have a little bit of a break because they have the Falcons. They have the Seahawks after that, and then they have the Falcons and Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to look like they're going to be picking pretty early in the draft this year. Still got a solid team, but got to figure out the quarterback situation. Got to figure out a lot of things on defense. Got to get more talented. I think they got a good coaching staff. I think they got pieces in place, but just got to continue to get better and improve in a very tough division. And that's what it looked like. That's what it's looked like all year. Jacoby Brissett played a solid game, 271, 2 touchdowns and an interception, but it's not going to be good enough against a Rams team that's going to be competing for the championship this year.
It's been a downward slide for the Arizona Cardinals ever since they lost James Conner, really. But, I mean, on the bright side of things, they do look like they have a good stud wide receiver. We thought this would be Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's your Stanford Cardinal alum, Michael Wilson. I mean, another huge game for him today. 11 receptions, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know you know his game, Richard. Did you see this coming? Did you see him having this success in the NFL like he showed over the last 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, he just needs an opportunity, and I hope he's able to get to a team that features him more than what he's been featured in Arizona, because obviously they believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy, and so that's where they, put most of their energy and their game plan around. But I think Michael Wilson can do it. I think he can play at a high level. I think he can be really effective in this league. 1,000-yard receiver, maybe even 1,500-yard receiver in the right offense, and I think that's important because he's showing what he's capable of in a time where, not a lot of people are watching. But I think NFL teams like the San Francisco 49ers should be watching and paying close attention, because I think that's a guy that can help them. The Seattle Seahawks, just about any team, a big, strong receiver that can get the job done at a high level is valuable in any offense. So I think he'll have a market this offseason, and hopefully if the Arizona Cardinals don't want to feature him like they need to, somebody else will come get him.
There's no question about it. And the final game of the weekend, at least that we're going to cover, is the Denver Broncos. They're in a tight race with the New England Patriots for the top of the AFC. But one team to me just looks a lot more impressive than the other, and that's the New England Patriots. The Broncos won again on the road, 24-17. And you know what? They controlled this entire game. The score did not dictate how much Denver dominated, but I think a lot of teams dominate these Las Vegas Raiders. That being said, Bo Nix, 31-38, incredibly efficient for 212 yards, had a rushing touchdown. We expected the Broncos to win, but Richard, candidly, I expected them to blow this team out, and they didn't do that. 11-2, I guess they've earned that record, but on its surface, do you see this team as the cream of the crop in the AFC?
I don't know. The AFC is wide open, and I think anybody who says anything else is fooling themselves. I think it's wide open. You get to the playoffs, and I'm really not sure who's going to win each game. I think it's going to be some intriguing matchups, no question about it. But I look forward to seeing how the Broncos do next week when they have to play Packers. When they have to play the Green Bay Packers. I think that's a game that's going to determine a lot for both teams. Two really good defenses and pass rushes. A young quarterback in Bo Nix who's still figuring it out. Sean Payton's at the helm. But We'll see. We'll see. We'll see who's able to come out victorious. The Packers just had a really physical division game, and I think they'll look at things from this Raiders tape and understand that this Broncos offense is they aren't world beaters. And they can be stopped. Bo Nix can be stopped. I like Harvey, but I don't think there's anything about this Broncos offense that scares defenses. And I think if I'm Jeff Hafley, I'm looking to be really aggressive and go after this young quarterback and see if we can get him to make a mistake. And on the other side, I still think this pass rush is one of the best in the National Football League, and I think they're going to have a chance. But and again, one of the best corners in the National Football League, and Patrick Surtain, this defense is going to give the Green Bay Packers some trouble. So it's going to be a great game overall. I look forward to seeing it.
No question. And the one team on bye, we got to cover them. We got several listeners in San Francisco that we love so deeply. Richard, I know San Fran's on bye. They got the Titans next week, and then they close out at the Colts, who are without Daniel Jones, the Bears, a team that you've seen firsthand, and then, of course, the Seattle Seahawks. They're sitting in sixth place right now in the NFC. They got the Titans next week. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I think that's a win, 10-4, and then they finish up at the Colts and then hosting the Bears and Seahawks. They could win this division, Richard. And I knew you said early on, you predicted prior to the start of this year that it would come down to a battle in that last game for the division against Seattle. And you're looking pretty darn smart right now. What do you think of the San Francisco 49ers' chances down the stretch?
I feel really good about them, and I'm sure the San Francisco 49ers faithful feel really good based off what happened in this week. And you look at the unfortunate things that happened. The Colts lose their quarterback to an injury. Now you're facing an entirely different offense without Daniel Jones at the helm. Obviously, they still have Jonathan Taylor, incredibly effective, but that changes the way you game plan for him. You're gonna force the young rookie quarterback to beat you in that game. Sauce Gardner's out for that team, so a number of things have happened that just changed the dynamics of some of these games. Again, I think they can beat the Tennessee Titans. I think it's going to be a great game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks at the end of the season. I believe they play the Chicago Bears as well, another game that's going to be a dogfight for this team. So, yeah, there's every possibility in the world for this team to win this division, but it's unpredictable. And anybody that thinks they can predict this, I'd love to see the method to their madness, because it's simply madness right now in the National Football League. A ton of parity, unexpected things are happening every week. You never expect the Carolina Panthers to beat the LA Rams the way they did. You don't expect so many things to happen that are consistently happening this season. So it's anybody's guess who wins this division. There's a huge game next week, obviously, between the Rams and the Lions, then the Rams and the Seahawks. The results of those games will have a huge impact on the overall standings at the end. So I can't say, oh man, I know the Rams are going to win this or the Seahawks are going to win this, and then this is going to happen. You just never know. And if the San Francisco 49ers can beat the Titans and then beat the Colts, and then if they find a way to beat the Bears, whoa, Nelly. You're looking at an incredible season. I mean, you got to be looking at Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year. I know there's no way you don't give it to Mike Vrabel, but the circumstances are so unique this season for the San Francisco 49ers. It's hard not to keep looking at this team, especially if you look up and they're one of the top 3 seeds in the NFC. You're like, how did you do that without some of your best players, in uniform? You got some of the best players in the National Football League on crutches and on the sideline and in the stands watching this team play, and you're still able to win football games. So I think there's something to be said there. But it's going to be a great finish. It's going to be a photo finish for sure.
Well, we got to have an agreement between Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. You guys are all big-time Detroit Lions fans next weekend as we take on your, biggest rival, the LA Rams. So let's all root for a Detroit Lions victory.
All odds and lines come from our partners at Hard Rock Bet. We've got the Eagles at the Chargers. On Monday Night Football tomorrow, Hard Rock has the Eagles as a 2-point spread in this game. I think that's a little light. I think with the way their pass rush gets home and the struggles that the Chargers offensive line has, the big-time injuries, obviously, to both tackles, I think the Eagles can pull away. But obviously, Vegas doesn't agree with me. But how you feeling, Mitchell?
Man, Richard, once the Lions lost to the Eagles, I thought, hey, man, maybe this Eagles team is really going to go back-to-back. But then the last couple weeks, what I've seen, man, I just don't know if I'm a believer in them. I think offensively they're sputtering, but they're playing indoors in L.A. I think the Chargers are going to win this game. I think it's going to be close. I think the Eagles' offense is going to have some success in the sunshine. But ultimately, I think the Chargers are going to win. That being said, I got Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, who's much needed to have a good game, and Ladd McConkey all getting in the end zone. That's my 3 picks as anytime touchdown scores.
As always, we appreciate you joining us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we surely do appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who helped us get to 200,000 subscribers. We couldn't be here without your heartfelt support and love and you paying attention and thinking that our opinion matters. We really sincerely appreciate you more than you'll ever know. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us every Sunday, and we surely do appreciate it. You guys have a beautiful holiday season. We will see you next week.